Well, hello, good evening, welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live from Manu Sabata Desa Wakanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. I am Alfred Ocansey. This evening, President John Mahama paints a bleak picture about the economy bequeathed to him by the outgone Akufo-Addo administration, describing it as broken on many fronts. But he says he's committed to fixing the economy. We'll give you details of portions of the State of the Nation address that he presented not too long ago.
Today, inspired by the Almighty God and propelled by the massive mandate given to me by the good people of Ghana, I am moved to make a similar purposeful and bold declaration that I, John Dramani Mahama, I will fix the economic crisis confronting our country.
Us, John Mahama, the President of the Republic of Ghana there, we bring you details from the meeting second-term State of the Nation address by President Mahama, plus reactions from ordinary Ghanaians and some members of parliament as well, and some key sector players on some of the issues that the President put out earlier today. Stay with us here on Hot Edition. We're live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Let's settle for a summary of the news now. Safwa Boahing is here. Safwa.
Thank you, Alfred, and welcome to the news summary segment. Settling for the details now. In a brazen move to eschew corruption in his government, President Dramani Mahama has directed a full-scale investigation into the NSS ghost name scandals. The president has also vowed to ensure that persons responsible for the corrupt act will face justice and be prosecuted. Delivering his first State of the Nation's address in his second term, the president noted that as part of Operation Recover or Loot program, he has already tasked investigative bodies to bring the culprits of the National Service ghost name scandal to justice. Moving on, Member of Parliament for Gushegu Al-Hassan Tampuli has explained the reason why the minority wore black attire to Parliament for President John Dramani Mahama's State of the Nation's address, SONA, on Thursday, February 27. He says on Facebook that the action was in solidarity with the Ghanaians who were unjustifiably sacked by the Mahama administration. Into our last story now, President John Dramani Mahama has bemoaned the significant number of qualified senior high school graduates who failed to gain admission into universities. He said as many as 300,000 products of the country's senior high schools are unable to access tertiary education. According to him, his administration is committed to stemming this tide, for which reason the no fee stress policy will be implemented to the letter. And this brings us to the end of our news summary segment, and over to you, Alfred.
Safa, thank you. More news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Gun. That's Hot Edition. We're live as well on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. President John Dramani Mahama has delivered a bleak evaluation of the country's economic situation, declaring the State of the Nation as broken on many fronts due to unsustainable debt levels and widespread financial mismanagement. Speaking during his first State of the Nation address of his second term, President Mahama revealed that Ghana's public debt has ballooned to a staggering 721 billion cedis, a figure that has placed immense strain on the economy. He warned that this situation is further exacerbated by the dire financial state of key state-owned enterprises, including the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, and the Cocoa Board, which are struggling under crippling debt. Take a listen to exactly what the president said on this matter.
I'm sad to report that the state of our nation is not good. Our economy is in crisis and our people are suffering unprecedented hardships. Mr. Speaker, we will host a national economic dialogue on March 3rd and 4th. On March 11th, the Minister of Finance, on my behalf, will present the budget estimates for the financial year 2025 to this August House. These two events will allow us to present the real state of Ghana's economic crisis to the people. Mr. Speaker, it is not my style to lament and shift blame when confronted with challenges. Speaker, it's not my style to lament and shift blame when confronted with challenges. My approach is to accept challenges and work hard to resolve them. Indeed, this is precisely what the people of Ghana elected me to do. I have therefore not come here to lament on the state of our country, though there's much to lament about. I understand why I was elected with such high voter confidence, and that is to solve Ghana's problems.
As the President, John Dramani Mahama there. Now, he also talks about a dire strain on the economy when it comes to the impact of the debt situation and also state-owned enterprises that are not doing too well.
When I decided to run for president again, I did so because of what I knew about the state of our country. I was aware that huge problems awaited me upon assumption of office, but nothing could prepare anyone for the reality of the debts to which our economy and our governance had sunk. Our elders say that a frog's true length can be ascertained only after it has died. Apotrowa ni ehune tenten. And how right they were. It is common knowledge that our economy is in dire straits, which is putting it mildly, because an initial assessment of the books we have discovered, after initial assessment of the books, we have discovered that our economic problems are much deeper than was previously known. We have inherited a country that is broken on many fronts. The profundities of the challenges confronting us are staggering. We are saddled with staggering debts and glaring signs of almost deliberate and, in some cases, reckless mismanagement of our resources. Mr. Speaker, not even the restraints of an IMF program were enough for the previous economic managers to exercise prudence in managing our finances. After setting an inflation target of 18% by the end of 2024, the actual outturn was 23.8%, significantly higher than the threshold agreed with the IMF. The Ghana cedi continued its downward slide, losing 19% of its value against the dollar in 2024. It had already in the previous year lost 27.8% of its value. In addition to the public debt, which amounts to a staggering 721 billion cedis.
As the President there, on the ECG and Cocoa Board heavy indebtedness, this is what the President said, and reason why he is asking that a conversation be had on the state of affairs when it comes to managing these state-owned enterprises.
Several state-owned enterprises are also in debt, including the ECG, which owes 68 billion Ghana cedis. Ghana Cocoa Board, the hope of cocoa farmers, is also highly indebted. Its balance sheet indicates a total debt of 32.5 billion Ghana cedis, of which 9.7 billion is due to be paid at the end of September 2025. In 2023-2024 crop season, Cocoa Board was unable to supply 333,767 metric tons of cocoa, which it had sold at $2,600 per ton. As a result, the then management of Cocoa Board rolled over these contracts into the 2024-2025 season. Honorable members, Mr. Speaker, this implies that for every ton of cocoa delivered this year, in fulfillment of the rollover contracts, Cocoa Board and Ghanaian farmers are going to lose $4,000 in revenue. Mr. Speaker, as I address this honorable House, Cocoa Board has supplied 210,000 tons out of the rollover contract, resulting in a revenue loss of $840 million for both cocoa board and the Ghanaian farmer. Mr. Speaker, cocoa board and the Ghanaian farmer will lose another $495 million by the time the board finishes supplying the remaining rollover contracts. Additionally, cocoa road commitments alone total 21.7 billion cedis, of which only 4.4 billion is included in the total debt of 32.5 billion. This debt has arisen mainly because of the decision in 2019 and 2020 to award road contracts worth over $1 billion because of the election.
So that's the president, John Dramani Mahama, there. But let's just stay a bit further on this, because a number of you have been reacting to this, and as expected, the NPP minority in parliament say this is not the state of the economy that the former president, Alfred Akrofi Ocansey, handed over to President John Mahama. In their view, they say that the president did not present the true state of the economy handed to them, because according to the Shiaso Member of Parliament, Dr. Stephen Amoah, the NPP handed an economy that is working, an economy that was fixed by them, to John Dramani Mahama. So they take a contrary view to it. We're going to bring that to you shortly. But let me welcome Dr. Jonathan Asantiochiri. He is a political analyst and a lecturer at the University of Cape Coast. He's joining us right now. Dr. Asantiochiri, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Good evening, Alfred.
I mean, you sat back and we at some point watched this, together during the coverage. Hearing the president present the state of the nation as was bequeathed to him by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. As expected, the NPP says, look, it cannot be the economy that they handed over to him. Whose report will you believe?
Alfred, let me say good evening once again to your good self and to your listeners. I think that the real person to believe is the entirety of Ghanaians that took part in the 2024 elections. And the verdict that they gave was resounding. And for me, that is where the MPP is missing a lot. They're supposed to take a cue from the voice of the ordinary Ghanaian that went out there to give such an overwhelming victory to Mr. John Dramani Mahama. That is where they are missing the mark. Because if it becomes an economic banter, if it becomes a political banter, I'm saying this, you are saying that. Those of us, it's just like two elephants fighting. Those of us on the ground, we are the real recipient of the policies of government. If they are good, we will respond positively. That is why when Dr. Bawumia once said that when the fundamentals are weak, the exchange will expose you. And I told him in response that when the fundamentals are weak, the labor front will expose you. Because on a regular basis, you will have labor insurrection, labor going on strike, some, on demonstrations here and there. And that is what we saw by the end of 2023 and throughout 2024. And so that for me is the actual verdict. It's not a political banter between the two. Be that as it may, there are certain indicators that were in existence that the MPP cannot do anything. On what basis did Dr. Bawumia shift from talking about the economy to be talking about digitalization? So if these postulations are anything to go by, then obviously, what Dr. Stephen Amoah did is much ado about nothing. What Ghanaians are looking out for are interventions, the elections are over, are interventions that will ameliorate the sufferings that, this current government inherited. These are the very things that they are looking out for. So if I look at the interventions the president, proclaimed during the speech.
Hello, Dr. Asantiochiri? Unfortunately, I lost Dr. Jonathan Asantochu. Try to raise him back on the telephone here. So live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. As I was saying to you, after the State of the Nation address presentation by President John Dramani Mahama, there were some reactions from some members of Parliament, specifically from the NPP, who disagreed with the President's diagnosis of the state of the economy that was handed over to him by the former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Let's take a quick recall of exactly what these NPP MPs said to my colleague Eric Mane-Egbeta, who covered this for us in Parliament. Dr. Stephen Amoah says that the details given by the President today about the state of the economy, he disagrees, because as a former Deputy Finance Minister, the economy, in his view, was fixed before it was handed over to President John Dramani Mahama on the 7th of January. Take a listen to him.
A while ago, simply State of the Nation address us.
And thank you for this opportunity. Honestly, the economy at a point in time was not doing well. This is an established fact. And it was a global challenge. That time, the global economy grew negative. Go and check. Global inflation rate post-COVID over 200%. So we realized that the Ghanaian economy, as well as the global economy, had challenges. This is but have you also forgotten that because of the Ghanaian they paid, in fact, the private sector over 40,000 people. We had revenue shortfall of about 12 billion Ghana cedis. So we're using debt financing. Our debt to GDP went up. That is fact. This was a global crisis. But when we were leaving power just last year, the economy, to a large extent, had been restored. This is fact. In fact, GDP had grown provisionally 6.3%.
So you think all of these things?
By November 2024, the economy had grown 6.3%, almost twice as 2016, 3.4. Industry, services were growing 2.7, 4.3, and low numbers. But they were all growing 4.5, over 8%, 5% when we're handing over power to them. So what we are saying is the President is not telling Ghanaians the true state of the economy.
So he's not telling us the true state of the economy.
We didn't leave doom for them. Now they are even sacking public service and civil servants. Nurses and teachers are being sacked.
They say you didn't budget to pay these individuals you employed, and so there was no budgetary allocation for them. And so,
yeah, some of them 1 year. Government is continuity. The Constitution of Ghana states any ambiguity that every citizen must enjoy his fundamental human rights, and one of them is to have access to state facilities. Why are they doing selective justice? Equality before the law, Article 17. So the state, look, railway sector, it is unprecedented in the history of this country.
The work that was done.
The work that
he acknowledged that and said that the Mpakadan railway line was going to be opened.
It's already commissioned. It's already commissioned. The coaches are here. So he twisted a lot of the issues. Go to Defense Ministry, find out the unprecedented accomplishment in the area of the things we needed for your future and my future in terms of securities. He was talking about the insecurities along our borders. Now he failed to realize that the money he said Defense Ministry had actually incurred had been used for that purposes for the country and for the future and for your safety and my safety. So the president, in my opinion, was not sincere with us, but his composure was good. He spoke well. I mean, there were a few mistakes, but that was normal because he stood there for a long time.
Well, that's Dr. Stephen Amoah. He is a former Deputy Finance Minister and also Member of Parliament for the Nshaiso constituency. And so, Dr. Asanteche, that's his verdict on the President's Nation address presented today. That what the President said, it's not a reflection of what they handed over. I mean, as a Deputy Finance Minister, what he handed over to the President. When it comes to the state of the economy, the economy was growing, 6.3% GDP, agri industry, services, all these sectors were showing positive growth.
Probably he's just trying to paint an utopian picture of an economy that the verdict had resoundingly been given by Ghanaians. In fact, if we are talking about a situation where the president says that we are importing over 90% of poultry feed or poultry. I mean, things related to poultry, over 90% are imported. My goodness, what kind of economy is that? Poultry belongs to the agri sector. So you are importing growth? Is that what Dr. Stevamo is saying or suggesting to all of us? In actual fact, what was the ranking of Ghana when they took over, and what is the current ranking before they handed over? The likes of Moody's and then Fitch, why did they rank us? These are the realities. Look, you took over $1 of 4 cedis, you handed over $1 that was close to 17 cedis. So what kind of economy are you talking about? And I have said that, look, there are about 4 indicators in any economy that if a government does not have a full grasp on, that government will lose elections. It will not survive. Inflation is what? What was the inflation you inherited and what inflation did you leave? 15.4 and 23 point something. Look at the gap. What was the interest rate when you took over from this country? When you took over, the interest rate yours is far and above. When you look at this from an economic perspective and political implications, it means that you are crowding out the those within the private sector. They will not even have enough money. They will not get enough resources from the bank to be able to employ. No wonder our unemployment rate rose up to 14.7, somewhat 2023. Now, apart from that, if you look at the debt portfolio, you took over a debt of 120, you are leaving a debt of 700 billion. If you do the subtraction, we are talking about 601 billion cedis. Difference, 8 years. And you think that we are not supposed to find out exactly what those monies were used for? There's supposed to be some kind of accountability and a proper audit, because someone cannot take a debt portfolio from independence to 2016, 2017, which is 120, and you take over, and we are talking about 721 billion. What crime did we commit? The other part, you are looking at the cedi to the dollar ratio, and all of this. These are the reasons why, since this is an economy that is import-driven, these are the major reasons why things are so expensive in this country.
Right. No, Dr. Jonathan, just hold on a bit for me.
Alfred,
yes.
Before you ask another question, you see, it is based upon something. Organized labor wouldn't have taken 10% under normal circumstances, but it is because they were open to the books. They were allowed to look into the books of this country, and it is based upon that they accepted that particular 10%. So, Dr. Steve Damwa cannot be the one telling us the truth.
Okay, hold on a bit for me. Let me bring in Professor Patrick Esumeh. He's an economist and also senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Professor Patrick Esumeh, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition. Hello, Prof. Hello, Professor Esumeh, good evening. Unfortunately, we lost him on the telephone. We'll try to raise him back. But Dr. Sanchochi, so it comes down to the politics of things. And are you saying that for you, you would rather believe the report of the Ghanaian people when it comes to the verdict on the state of the economy during the elections? Because then, in your view, if the economy was fixed, as Dr. Amma was saying, it should have influenced how people voted. But also, you hear the MPP make reference to the fact that the president was voted for to fix these problems that he talks about. So that has to be done, and for him to also fix it. From the political analyst perspective, I mean, how do you expect Ghanaians to see through this state of the nation while all of this politics is at play?
Well, as I said earlier, the only thing the Ghanaian will look out for with respect to the state of the nation address, and obviously the budget as well, is the implementation of the ideas and the ideals of the president. The president is talking about free, what's it called? This school fees, stress, whatever, for first years. Now, he's also talking about accommodation, maybe in a relatively not too distant future. That accommodation issue will have to be something that they will have to solve. Because what I see is a private sector fleecing on the ordinary Ghanaian when it comes to the universities. A first-year student is a vulnerable student. And so if the government is ready to make such opportunity for a first-year student, it will go to second year.
Hello?
You get an enhanced one. Yeah.
Right. And Doc, I'm losing you a bit, so when you get a bit stable, let's go to the other line. Edward Kawe is the former General Secretary of the Ghana Agricultural Workers Union, GAWU. And Mr. Kawe, appreciate your time. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Now, you hear the president, and this specifically on the agri sector, he talks about the number of policies that he intends to put in place, including what was very topical during the elections, this Akokon Kitinkiti project that to revamp the poultry sector. Let's take a listen to the president, and I'll find out your thoughts about how far-reaching these policies will be.
Our poultry farm-to-table project will eliminate poultry imports and increase local production. Ghana imports 95% of its poultry needs, which costs over $300 million annually. To reverse this trend, government plans to revamp the poultry sector by investing in hatcheries, feed mills, processing, and distribution, working towards eliminating poultry imports. And this is a good one. The Nkukon Kitinkiti project. We actually have a project called Nkukon Kitinkiti. The Nkukon Kitinkiti project will cover 55,000 households producing eggs and fresh poultry for the market. And it will help reduce our $300 million we spend on importing chicken annually. Mr. Speaker, Ghana has fertile lands, abundant water, and human resources. Yet we face a paradox. Our food import bill continues to soar, reaching alarming levels of over $2 billion annually. In addition, rising food inflation is burdening households and threatening livelihoods. To address this, we're implementing several well-considered policies to grow the agricultural sector, including agro-processing. This will be backed by reliable power supply to meet our country's needs while advancing exports to earn foreign exchange and strengthen our economy. Mr. Speaker, the Agriculture for Economic Transformation Agenda, AETA for short, will modernize agriculture, enhance agribusiness, ensure food security, it will lower food inflation, it will boost exports, and create sustainable jobs. The Feed Ghana program will increase food production and reduce prices through projects like the Grain Development Project, focusing on rice, maize, and soya bean production. The Vegetable Development Project will target crops such as tomatoes, onions, and pepper. Mr. Speaker, to strengthen the connection between agriculture and industry, we will prioritize value addition, processing, and distribution. And this will position agriculture as profitable and appealing, making it more attractive to our young people. We will implement an Agri-Next program to facilitate access to land banks by young farmers, to connect graduates with opportunities in the agricultural value chain, and promote greenhouse agriculture among the youth.
Listening to Mr. Karawa, listening to the president outline these agric policies, how far-reaching in your view and per your experience as former General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union, what will this be?
Well, thanks very much for the opportunity, and then let's also thank our listeners. I think he has given a very good diagnosis of the agricultural sector, and then you see, this is what we always want, because the president himself is a farmer. You know, he's able to appreciate and then understand the challenges that are in the agricultural sector. Now, so we have really some resources which we have to have maximum use of them. We have fresh water, even though the southern part, the rivers are polluted, but the northern part of the country and that of Volta, they are still fresh water. And if you look at the poultry industry, it is one industry that connects to almost every aspect of the food agriculture. You need maize, you need soya bean to be able to process the feed for poultry. And the government intention to roll out this project, the Nkiti project, and then also targeting poultry farmers to support them with the chicks and hatcheries and so on, you know, immediately creates a market. One of the major challenges for the agricultural sector, and particularly producers, is about market. Now, when maize producers harvest, what will be their market? But because the poultry industry is booming or is supported to grow, then there will be ready market for the soya bean, there will be ready market for the maize. So you see that you have one particular policy, and then there are connected, you know, beneficiary areas like maize, like soya bean, and so on. So I think it is on course. And what we need to do, and of course, when someone is a farmer, you first have to accept that he knows what he's doing because he has done farming himself and he's even still in farming. And I am not in doubt that government will be committed to ensuring that the agriculture sector comes back to be the main source of livelihood for the people of this country. We know that our national inflation, over 50% of national inflation, is caused by food inflation. So if we are able to bring down food inflation, then national inflation will fall to a level that is acceptable. Apart from even producing the poultry for ourselves, the fact that it is produced here, you can guarantee quality. You can guarantee quality, and then when there's a problem, you can easily trace and check it. We often have problems with almost rotten, expired poultry products that are imported into this country. And we've often been alerted by the Food and Drugs Board and Authority and those institutions that we should be minded that there are some almost expired products with it in the market. And then apart from that, that is how the jobs can be created. Because these jobs will be spread not in the cities, but it will be spread in the rural areas. And it will also stop the rural-urban migration. Because when people know that when they have their farms, after harvesting, there will be ready market, then they don't need to come to Accra. And in fact, you may even come to appreciate that there will be some level of reverse migration where people will be moving from the urban areas back to the rural areas to benefit from the agricultural system.
And this is why I bring in Professor Patrick Asumin again. Hopefully we have a clear line to him. Professor Asumin, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening and good evening to the listeners. Thanks for having me.
As always, it's great to have you join us. He is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School and economist as well. Professor Asumin, you had the president's diagnosis of the state of the economy that was bequeathed to him by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Says it's bleak, it's not looking good, and he gave the details, the debts that we're saddled with, coupled with the mounting public debt, as a matter of fact, and the unproductivity we're seeing in a number of these areas as well. He projects what is going to be the case, especially when it comes to the payment of debts in the coming months. The MPP disagrees that, well, the economy was showing some signs of positive growth, and so it cannot be the case that the economy was broken. I mean, you look into the lenses of the state of the economy. How was it looking, and how is it looking now?
Well, I mean, so if you say how was it looking when, and how is it looking now? I think in the last 2 years, the economy has just been in terrible shape. I think it appears that the previous administration is just paying too much attention or putting too much focus on the fact that 2024, the first 3 quarters, the growth has been stronger than projected. But, I think I have spoken about this before, and I've said that even the stronger than projected growth, within that you begin to see the problems that the economy is facing. So, the economy is in extreme difficulty. Let's not underplay that. Apart from the financing problems, the debt and the financing problems, even within the real sector, there are real challenges. The growth that we have seen that is above expectation is driven by 3 sectors: construction, mining and quarrying, and then ICT. And I've explained in the past that if you take mining in particular, where we measure our industry output, there are large-scale mines that have been opened, and some of the old mines have been reopened, and those have been scheduled for a long time. So I think you can't put too much premium on that. But more importantly, these are sectors that have very little Ghanaian participation, and we don't have strong linkages to the other sectors of the economy. So if you look at a sector like cocoa, where Ghanaian participation is very high, and that touched a lot of lives, you saw that there is massive contraction in all those 3 quarters. So I think if the real sector will tell you all the problems, you can say agri is doing well, but when you see food prices are rising and food inflation is going up, that needs to tell me all I need to know. Whatever the growth it is that we are recording is not enough to meet our demand. So for me, that's the sufficient statistic. So you come to the financing of the economy and all the challenges we are having and the currency. This is not an economy that you can describe as strong. It is an economy that has real challenges. And in any case, things are going to get worse before they get better.
If you said they're going to get worse before they get better, how do you mean? I mean, it's gotten worse already, as you indicated, that the economy of the last 2 years has been in a terrible shape. I mean, how worse can it get again before it gets better?
You see, the reason I say it's going to get worse is that we have implemented the IMF program for over 1.5 years. It's obvious that the key issues of how financing has not been addressed. You heard the president say the financing gap for this year has increased compared to what we initially thought. The key thing is that, we did domestic debt exchange, we did external restructuring, and that allowed us to reduce the size of the debt. But the key problem of persistently running hefty budget deficits have not been addressed. We are able to raise additional revenue by imposing a lot of new taxes. But we know that means that the private sector is weaker. So the reason why I say things are probably going to get worse is that the weaknesses that the reforms have brought on the private sector have not been addressed yet. So we have to address those before we will begin to see the economic rebound in the proper sense of the word.
I see, but then we are still having another 1.5 years of under the IMF program to go, or to be under. How do you expect that to impact on your assessment of the state of the economy as we have it?
So I think what we have done so far with the IMF program really amounts to just scratching the surface of our problem. That's exactly what I'm saying. Now, the current administration has made it clear that it wants to have some discussions with the IMF in terms of changing the focus of how we do the fiscal consolidation. One of them, as we've seen, and the president re-emphasized, is trying to bring in more expenditure rationalization, bringing in some of the excesses in terms of government expenditure. So, together with implementing the hardest choices, if you look at the biggest problems in the Ghanaian economy, the energy sector problems have not been tackled. If you read the third review of the IMF, it will tell you that as at that point, the government has not been able to implement the required reforms in the energy sector. So while we have been doing the program for 1.5 years, the energy sector problems have gotten worse. So when I say things will probably get worse before they get better, we have to take more difficult pain to address the long-term energy sector issues. And then also, the president talked about the cocoa sector. Everybody knows you don't need to, be a magician. You only have to read the growth of the cocoa sector last year was a contraction, and read the growth of the cocoa sector even in the first 3 quarters that we said the economy has done better than expected, contraction. So those problems have to be addressed. Then, along with having a more lasting solution to the fiscal side, that means when the president says there will be more fiscal austerity, what is he talking about? It means that bomb belt tackling is required. So actually, it's exactly what I'm saying. It's consistent with what I'm saying. We have to take more painful measures before we see more lasting solutions and then have a more sustainable rebound of the economy.
And on that note, how much of that austerity do you expect of the political class as well, or government in itself? Because the president, you heard him talk about the 60 ministers that he promised that he will do and is doing, and how that is going to impact on cost cutting as well. But beyond that, what else do you expect?
So I don't know what the president told organized labor for them to accept only a 10% increase in base pay, but he might have told them something very convincing and persuasive, given the extent of inflation we've seen in the last 3 or so years. Perhaps the president would have convinced them that, look, I've already cut the size of my government, and then also convince them that perhaps he's going to ensure that what they have called wasteful expenditure, excessive travel and luxurious travel, they are going to cut all of that. I think those ones are more symbolic. Even reducing the size of ministry, yes, it will bring us some savings, but it's not going to reduce our expenditure by more than 20%. So I think it's bringing more efficiency in government spending. That the government says I'm spending 50 million cedis on a project. We are getting value for that. So I think that's the other aspect that will be brought in when the budget is read. How you are bringing more efficiency in public spending. And then together with whatever tax rationalization and the additional revenue that will be created. So that's what I'm expecting to see.
Well, so appreciate your time on this. And then also, maybe a very quick one, and then I'll bring Mr. Karawe while we round up. State-owned enterprises. You heard the president talk about how much losses that these state-owned enterprises are posting on their books and how it's also impacting on public debt. Is privatization and public-private partnership the way to go in reviving the fortunes of these state-owned enterprises?
I think it's a difficult question, and I think we shouldn't box all the state-owned enterprises together. We have to understand that there are some state-owned enterprises that are doing quite well, and they are profitable. I mean, my sense is that the bigger problem has been that the political class has interfered too much in the function of the state-owned enterprises. I think that's what the problem is. So if the give up, interfering in the operations of state-owned enterprises by appointing political people rather than competent people, then in that case, I guess privatizing is the way to go. But we have to be careful. If you take an entity like the Electricity Company of Ghana, we've attempted privatization before. One thing we have to be mindful of is we have a very bad culture of regulating private entities and ensuring they are compliant. So we don't want to just go and privatize the ECJ and allow private sector to come in and we can't regulate properly. And they are simply coming to fleece the public and make hefty profits and not bring the improvement required. So I think privatization in and of itself is not really the solution, but other accompanying reforms to ensure that if you bring private sector in, they are bringing in the funds required in the areas that are needed. And then you put in strict regulatory mechanisms to ensure that they are not taking the public for granted.
Professor, appreciate your time on this, and I thank you so much. And to you, Mr. Karawe, before I let you go, you hear the president talk about a number of these agric-related policies, agric economic transformation agenda, AETA, Feed Ghana program. He talks about the vegetable development program as well. Man, this is not the first time we've seen some of these policies. What do you want to see differently being done this time around?
The issue today is that, as against previously, this time around, an economy perception is based on perception. Perception has an impact on the economy. The reality is also there, and so on. So when you look at the performance of an economy, it talks about it. You look at it from two angles mainly. The perception that people have, it will affect that particular economy, and then the realities as well. Now, what we had in the past and what our economy we have today is bound to improve. Because one, today people have been given hope. So the immediate past, there was no hope again. So the economy was just falling like that, like a wool. It was just falling. Now that, because there was no hope, now there is hope. Now the other thing has to do with discipline. We saw that in the past, when people got it wrong or did the wrong thing, they were not punished. So if going into the future, the president is able to discipline his people who have not done well, then the fear will be that people will have to set up and do the right thing. So our economy will go on. So if you look at all the programs that are coming on, even though we have had some of these policies in the past, like the vegetable policies like Feed Ghana and then farmer services centers, similar things of that nature were implemented in the past. They performed very badly because there was no discipline, and I believe that this time round, if there's going to be discipline, then the performance will be better than before. So the economy will grow. So this is the hope that is available for all of us. And at the same time, there is the fear that if you do the wrong thing, you will not be spared. And therefore, people will do the right thing. And those who do the wrong thing will be penalized. And that will serve as a deterrent to any other person who is in government and will want to do the wrong thing. So eventually, there will be efficiency, productivity will go up, there will be effectiveness, and then the overall economy will get better.
Thank you very much for joining us. Edward Karawa is the former General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union. Professor Patrick Asumin is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School there, and a number of you have been sharing your thoughts and reactions as well to the President's State of the Nation as presented today, the first of his State of the Nation in his second term as President of the Republic of Ghana. Take a listen to the President talk about the energy sector.
The administration inherited an energy sector on the brink of collapse. It was weighed down by unsustainable debt. This unfortunate situation has led to many independent power producers and fuel suppliers threatening to cease their operations. Mr. Speaker, listen to this. Despite collecting over 45 billion cedis in energy sector levies, ESLA, over the last 8 years, the outgone administration has left the Ghanaian people with an energy sector burdened with a staggering debt of 70 billion cedis as of December 2024. It is of deep concern that several state-owned enterprises in the energy sector are struggling to stay afloat, and unless urgent interventions are made, many of them will go under. Financial distress in the energy sector remains a significant obstacle to delivering consistent and affordable electricity to Ghanaians, and it poses an existential threat to our economy in general. Compounding these challenges, critical maintenance activities such as the scheduled pigging of the West African gas pipeline, WAPCO, were postponed from 2024 to 2025 without sufficient contingency measures for alternative fuel supply. As a result, my administration has had to swiftly mobilize resources to secure emergency fuel supplies to ensure that electricity generation continues despite the closure of the West African gas pipeline. I've been informed that the pigging exercise will be completed in the first week of March, and once again, additional gas will flow from Nigeria.
As a President, John Dramani Mahama there on the state of the energy sector as he inherited. Now, I'm just going to run you through some key highlights of the State of the Nation as presented by President John Dramani Mahama a few minutes. This about some 3 or 4 hours ago. And on the matter of governance and the administration, it's talked about the reduction of the government size to 60 ministers and deputy ministers to cut down costs. He pledged to significantly reduce presidential staff to control expenditure. Aims to also reset Ghana's economy after inheriting a deep economic crisis. Announced a national economic dialogue on March 3rd and 4th to discuss solutions. He also talks about Ghana's public debt that stands currently at 721 billion Ghana cedis, with an additional debt from state-owned enterprises like ECG, some 68 billion cedis, and Cocoa Board, 32.5 billion cedis. Inflation exceeded the IMF target of 23.8% instead of the 18% year-on-year inflation, that's end-year inflation target for 2024, and cedi depreciation. And the cedi depreciated by some 19% in 2024, and also some a little over 27% in the previous year, that's 2023. And also talk about the economic and financial management. The president says he plans to restore fiscal discipline and build buffers in the sinking fund for debt repayment. Treasury bill rates have also decreased, with the 91-day Treasury bills rates falling from 28.5% to 24.48%. and debt servicing for the next 4 years as well. He gives the detail and talk about oral anti-corruption and governance. The president makes reference to the Operation Recover All Loot, the preparatory team's report that was submitted to him. He has already initiated investigation into corruption and also punishing these acts of corruption captured in the oral report. Over 2,000 corruption cases, if you recall, were captured in that overall report that was submitted to him. He says plans to restrict the sale of state assets to political officials also underway. Anti-corruption agencies are to receive increased funding as well. But this, on the matter of corruption, the president says already the investigations into the SkyTrain botched contract and also the National Service Authority ghost names scandal are as a result of the Operation Recover All Loot preparatory team's work. And already you're seeing some persons being invited for questioning in these two cases we talk about. This is what the president said.
As part of our Operation Recover All the Loot policy, Mr. Speaker, as part of our Operation Recover All the Loot policy, ORA, I've already tasked our investigative bodies to bring the culprits of the National Service ghost name scandal to justice. Such brazen theft of public funds must not go unpunished. It is estimated that the criminal addition of some more than 80,000 ghost names could have yielded the suspects over 50 million Ghana cedis every month. Unfortunately, some of these suspects are believed to have absconded from the country already. I have directed that they be declared wanted and their assets traced and frozen until investigations are completed. To achieve a legally robust regime to govern national service, I've also tasked the Minister for Youth Development and Empowerment to coordinate and present to Parliament a legislative instrument to support the implementation of the newly passed National Service Authority Act 2024.
As the president there, let me bring in now Vitus Azim, one of the celebrated anti-corruption campaigners we have in this country and beyond, is joining us right now. Mr. Azim, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
I want to find out from you, hearing the president talk today about the action taking. In fact, he initiated the action to be taken in this National Service ghost name scandal. And in that regard, he's already instructed that persons who are out of their jurisdiction, who have been cited in this National Service ghost names, be declared wanted. How did that strike you?
Well, it's a welcome note, because he said that even before he assumed office, or he was sworn in, he established the order and they started their work, and that there have been some arrests in connection with the order. And so work is going on. And I mean, what would you expect than more than this? It takes, of course, it's not one agency that is doing the investigation, but it's good to start, and I think that's a good thing. And I've always said that if serious allegations of corruption are leveled against you, and for example, you have taken some money, and you admit that you have taken the money, the best is to refund the money to avoid being dragged to court and all that. But of course, as some have already absconded, what the president has done is to be declared wanted, and if they have any assets in this country, they can trace them and see how best they can recover them. So I think it's a good step, and we should commend the president for that.
Right, but beyond this as well, he talks about this SkyTrain as well that he initiated upon his instruction. Investigations are taking place. I mean, what?
Yes, so that is one of the we look forward to bringing these things to a logical conclusion.
Beyond this, there's been that call for him to also put measures in place in the loot, possible prevention of the loot by persons within his administration. What do you want to see as well?
Definitely, that is the best approach, because it should not look like you are going after members of the previous regime only. Because if you are recovering loot, talking about loot, it means that you yourself and your own people should not be engaged in also looting the country. Otherwise, what you have promised to recover so as to save us from the economic crisis is not going to come. So there is a two-pronged approach. You recover what has already been taken, but also prevent what is likely to be taken. So you need to keep an eye on that. And especially with the order, if we encourage people to report cases of potential loot or actual loot through the authorities, then the steps will be taken to prevent it. You don't wait for it to be taken before you now start chasing the people, where people can take off from the country. So I think that will be the best approach.
Mr. Azim, appreciate your time for this and your thoughts as always. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Vitus Azim is the former executive director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, an anti-corruption campaigner as well. There, so live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Stay with us. We have more on the state of the nation from the business perspective. Juliana Menuafo is standing by with the business news. Stay with us.
It's the battle of the teams in a 3FM 60-day Fit Start Challenge. Which team will come up tops? Will it be Team Comfort or Team Helen? Will age and tact triumph? Or will youth and energy win? Call or WhatsApp on these numbers: 0532 300 927 or 0532 200 927. Now, to join Team Comfort or Team Helen and enjoy holistic wellness coaching, specialized diet plans, and cooking tutorials, thrilling exercises, challenges, and activities, plus many exciting rewards. 3FM Fit Start is sponsored by Daffy's Health and Beauty, Bill's Microfinance and Usual Premier, and supported by Blue Skies and the Ghana Medical Association. 3FM Fit Start, your health, your journey, your victory.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition. Coming up tonight, President John Mahama reviews cocoa sector loses $4,000 per ton of cocoa sold, worsening Cocoa Board's $32.5 billion debt recorded. My name is Minu Afo. We have details of this and more coming up shortly. Please stay. Let's now get into the details. Ghana's cocoa industry is facing severe financial strain, with Cocoa Board burdened by a staggering 32.5 billion cedi debt, of which 9.7 billion cedis must be settled by September 2025. President John Mahama, delivering his 2025 State of the Nation address, warned that Ghanaian farmers and Cocoa Board are losing $4,000 for every ton of cocoa sold this year due to a rollover contract. The revelation raises serious concerns about the industry's stability and the economic future of Ghana's cocoa farmers.
3 FM 92.7.
For every ton of cocoa delivered this year, in fulfillment of the rollover contracts, Cocoa Board and Ghanaian farmers are going to lose $4,000 in revenue. As I address this honorable house, Cocoa Board has supplied 210,000 tons out of the rolled over contract, resulting in a revenue loss of $840 million for both Cocoa Board and the Ghanaian farmer. Cocoa Board and the Ghanaian farmer will lose another $495 million by the time the board finishes supplying the remaining rolled over contracts. Additionally, Cocoa Road commitments alone total 21.7 billion cedis, of which only 4.4 billion is included in the total debt of 32.5 billion. This debt has arisen mainly because of the decision in 2019 and 2020 to award road contracts worth over $1 billion because of the election.
You heard the voice of President John Dramani Mahama. Now, Ghana's insurance industry continues to struggle with low penetration, currently hovering around 2% of GDP, as industry players engage in price undercutting that threatens sustainable growth. Press Association Seth Aklasi has raised concerns over the practice, warning that it erodes profitability and weakens the sector's ability to meet claims obligations. He was addressing the media on the site of the 2025 Ghana Insurance Summit organized by his outfit.
The ethics aspect of it, which is for the institute to handle, it's being looked at so that there are sanctions on individuals before even the companies are sanctioned. With respect to, from the regulatory perspective, the regulators have already, the GIA last year had discussions that we're going to do the naming and the shaming. But one thing we need to tell the insuring public is that it's a fundamental principle of life. We are supposed to be charging a certain premium. Be wary, the people who are giving you low premiums to pay at the time of claim are the ones who are not going to be able to honor their claims. So it's both ways. We keep sensitizing our members, and then we need the insuring public to be aware also that if you pay a small amount of money, your claim will delay and you have to be paid little claims. As said, if you look at, we are paying about 40% of whatever premiums we are taking out in claims, year in, year out. That is a lot of money.
Seth Aklasi is president of the Ghana Insurance Association and newly appointed managing director of Ghana Reinsurance. Now, the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority, LUPSA, has introduced an upgraded digital system to enhance land management and urban planning. The Land Use Planning and Management Information System is designed to provide metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies, academia, professional bodies and the public with real-time data for effective spatial planning. Speaking at a stakeholder engagement, LUPSA's CEO, Deputy CEO, Owusu Setre assured Ghanaians that the new system will lead to a more efficient and transparent land permit issuance process, improving overall development management.
There will be a component of this loop base, what we call the public data room. So in the public data room, citizens could access to find out what is there. So if you are interested in having a development in a certain area within the jurisdiction of the assembly, you can go to the public data room and find out what has been proposed for that area, because there you see all the approved plans, the layouts, so that you know that this land that is being sold to me, it has been approved for this purpose. So if I'm not going in for that purpose, I cannot develop and I don't need to buy that land. So we are hoping that once this redevelopment process is ended, it will be online for the district assemblies to be able to link to the system to facilitate spatial planning, because like I said from the beginning, you have issues where people want to acquire permits, but there's no approved plan for the area that they are developing, and because of that they are unable to get permits.
That was the Deputy CEO of Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority, Chapman Owusu Setre. That will be all for Business News on Hot Edition. For more business stories, kindly check out our website. It's www.3news.com. My name is Minu Afo. Stay tuned. Ureku Ampofo is coming with the sports news.
Instill a sense of fitness and discipline into our youth. The administration of scholarships is another challenge. It has been fraught with a lot of challenges. The poor who
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Let's immediately cross over to Cape Coast because there's a big event when it comes to grassroots sports, and that has to do with the Super Zonal competition which kickstarted today across multiple regions in the country with young athletes from secondary schools competing for laurels. In Franzepim have been very dominant in the competition. My colleague Bill has been in Cape Coast monitoring events from day one. Bill, how are you and how has the event been so far?
Yeah, I've been great. The event has been quite eventful. It started with 2 records being broken, and coincidentally, both of them happened in the hurdles. For the men's division, Jonathan Nkrumah of Infantepim broke it with a time of 14.5 seconds. Now, the good thing about it is he broke a record in the hurdles just a week ago, that is in the Interco. And so he's gone ahead to break the Super Zonals record as well. And so that shows a lot of promise. And for the females in the 100-meter hurdles, Believe Dufe McAfee also broke the record with 14.8 seconds. But predominantly on the track, it has been all Infantepim. I can mention that in the 200 meters, in the 4x2 meters as well, in the finals, we saw Infantepim dominating that. And those were the 2 main competitions that people came to see. And the man who has been at the forefront has been Joseph Andokofi. Now, he won the 200 meters with a time of about 21.21 seconds. That was impressive enough. And he was the anchor for the team as they won the 4x200 meters. Now, when I talked to him on the side, he actually mentioned that his competitors have to train harder because he feels like it's just too easy for him. And it was probably very, 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 it was so obvious that it looked so easy because the gap that he was giving his opponents was something that was really marvelous. And so I could definitely say that Infantipim do have a gem on their hands and they have real stoppers on the track.
Infantipim continues to dominate the games. You spent some. You went there last night. You've been in the school. What do you think has been the major factors for their dominance when it comes to their zone?
I think the scouting has been quite important for them, and they have the right people at the right places to find the gems, find the talent, and recruit them to Infantipim. That has been their mantra: getting the best available talent from the basic schools and moving them into Infantipim to compete. Some of these athletes, I talked to them on the side, they did mention that they had offers from other schools, but in the end decided to go to Infantipim because they offered the right conditions for them to be able to thrive. And we have seen a lot of them thrive in this competition.
Oh, before we let you go, Bill, just what to expect on day 2 for the competition?
Yeah, in day 2, there are a lot of final events that will be happening, but the main one that will be happening will be the 100 meters and the 4x100. And of course, we'll be seeing again Joseph Akrofi competing in both. He did mention that he's looking to win both, and he has mentioned that he wants to hit the sub 10. That was during the time I went to Infantipim School. That was on Wednesday night. He mentioned that his main target is to hit the sub 10, especially in that 100-meter final.
Well, thank you very much, Billy Shen, who's stationed in Cape Coast. He would continue to bring us more updates, and so you can follow him on social media at Billy Shen, and also check out on our subsequent bulletins as he brings you more updates from the Super Zonals in the Central region. Let's do some more here, where President Dramani Mahama has emphasized his commitment to ensuring transparency in sports funding, stating that all budgets allocated for national teams must be made public. During the State of the Nation address, Mahama stressed that the Ghana Football Association must disclose the budget of the Black Stars as it involves the money of taxpayers.
Next month, the senior national team, the Black Stars, which is now a pale shadow of its former glory, will play 2 World Cup qualifying matches. I've instructed my office and the Minister for Sports and Recreation to hold the Ghana Football Association accountable to the people of Ghana as we prepare for these games, especially regarding the budget of the FA. There will be no secrecy in how much the government spends on the national teams. The budgets presented by the FA and other sports associations must be known by the public. After all, it is the taxpayers' funds that are used to fund these activities.
While still on Mahama, he further added that one of his main goals would be to ensure that grassroots football will be developed under his tenure.
Infrastructure development remains paramount in our strategy. The government is committed to refurbishing existing national stadia, completing youth resource centers, and constructing new sports facilities in the new regions. We'll also prioritize community recreational facilities to foster greater participation in sports at the grassroots level. Recognizing the critical role of youth development, we're implementing a significant overhaul of grassroots sports with the establishment of the School Sports Authority. This body will oversee structured inter-school competitions and talent identification initiatives essential for nurturing future sporting champions. Over 60% of Ghana's elite athletes have emerged from these school sport programs. The ministry has now been renamed the Ministry of Sports and Recreation. To acknowledge the significance of recreation, we will launch a National Recreation Day. This will be a monthly initiative centered on community engagement alongside an annual National Recreation Festival. These initiatives will encourage keep fit activities and promote active lifestyles. It will promote traditional games and strengthen community bonds.
And so that was President Dramani Mahama. But let's go to Europe, where Mohamed Salah has downplayed calls from fans and pundits as there is a continuous push for him to be nominated and potentially win the 2025 Ballon d'Or award. However, the Liverpool forward doesn't consider the award his top priority, as he acknowledges that receiving the gong would be a welcome bonus, and that would be the icing on the cake.
Thinking outside the box, what would you like? To win everything?
Absolutely.
Ballon d'Or?
Let's win the league. Let's win the league and the Premier League and the league and the Champions League, and we'll see. Because the Ballon d'Or, everybody knows, is sometimes stuff involved there. But I just want to win the.
But I think winning the Premier League and the Champions League and getting the Golden Boot,
hopefully,
you could be well on your way.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, we still stay in the Premier League because match day 27 of the English Premier League concludes later tonight when West Ham welcome relegation threatened Leicester City. Head coach of the Hammers, Graham Potter, believes that his side need to attain consistency and build on their victory at the Emirates over the weekend.
3FM 92.
Well, I mean, I think I've also said that we understand that you have to get results. I know I've been in the game long enough, 30 years nearly, so you know that you have to get results, and then it's a question of how you get those. I think we've focused as much as we can on our daily work, because that's the bit that you can control. That's the bit that I think if you do that well over a period of time can get you the rewards. It obviously doesn't happen overnight because it's too easy to happen overnight. All those things have to take a bit of while, but the performance and the result of the weekend gives us confidence and belief that going forward, it's not to say that we've cracked it, and it's not to say that everything's easy now, because it's certainly not, but at least it gives us an indication of what is possible, and then we have to keep working.
You can get updates on that game as well as other interesting stories on our social media handles at 3SportsGH or on 3News/sports. My name is Ore Kwampofo, and that's how we wrap up the sports segment here on Hot Edition.
Thank you very much. And remember, there's more sports news on 3 Sports across all social media platforms. It's so live here on Hot Edition. Let's go on to some more stories. Before we go here on Hot Edition, President John Mahama has been talking and giving details of the State of the Nation address earlier today, and some members of the general public in the Western region have also been sharing their thoughts about the President's State of the Nation address as delivered earlier today.
Kamo on shena contractors no mo bie kwan no mu yi kwan no saro da chen so mo bie mu yi na road marks no ende mu mai se na be ya e na manajo ayembre na from peduase lojo akokra street lights na bi ho anya papa
about the road toll issue. I would like the government or whoever is going to implement it to at least make the lines 8 or 7 in every site or every place that the road is the toll is going to be, not only 2 or 3 lanes, because now we have developed, the country has been developed. We have so many cars that goes up and down. If the road is 2 lanes, can you imagine how many traffic we are going to face? So it's supposed to be at least 8 lanes, 6 lanes, 5 lanes along the toll area, so that the vehicular movement will be, excellent. Not only two boxes for people to be there. Then it's going to cause a lot of problems. The road markings are very, very much important. If you go to Europe, the markings are there, left and right and straight. So there's no problem there.
That's for the Western region, Eastern region as well. Some members of general public share their views.
Yeah, I feel so refreshed, reassured, and then I think it's a step in the right direction from the president. Since his inception of office, all his actions and statements actually proves that is actually in to help the Western region gain its past glory. And then with our very able Honorable Joseph Nelson in office as the Western Regional Minister, I am very hopeful that the Western region will bounce back to the old days, the old glories, where the Western region was the hub of industries and then
3FM
factories that was actually contributing a lot to the development of this country. So I'm happy and I am very much refreshed this afternoon hearing this from the President.
I'm happy the President mentioned the Western region. You know, GG held the development dialogue a few days back. So we believe that if the President is going to focus on Western region's development, it's good news, and we're going to follow through to ensure that the Western region gets its due from the national cake.
We are grateful to the President for this assurance. Already, he's given us 3 hard-working ministers, and I'm talking about Honorable Emiriata as the Minister for Fishes and Aquaculture, Honorable Amakufibua for Lands and Mineral Resources, then Honorable Joseph Nelson as the Regional Minister. So if the President is assuring us of bringing some level of vibrancy into the region, we are most grateful. And we hope it will not just be the usual promises of our leaders, but this time around, we are going to see it happen.
That's the reactions in the Eastern region as well, here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Also, the President, John Dramani Mahama, spoke about youth and job creation.
As this promise, we're going to roll out what we call the Ejumawura program. This initiative will create, track and mentor young businesses annually with a special focus on our youth. For the first phase, the top 2,000 implementable business proposals will be supported with business development training, mentorship, access to startup capital, marketing and networking to operationalize their innovations and business ideas. We will also launch our flagship National Apprenticeship Program to equip at least 10,000 young people in the informal sector with employable skills, including providing apprenticeship fees and startup kits when they have completed. The Youth Development and the Interior Ministries will facilitate the training of our young people in the Okada business. In areas such as road safety regulations, financial literacy, and digital skills, as well as facilitating the acquisition of motorbikes. We will introduce electric motorcycles on a high purchase scheme to eliminate the use of petrol and make their businesses more profitable. Mr. Speaker,
as the President there on the Agenda 111, he says despite almost $400 million being paid to contractors, only one has been completed.
The Agenda 111 program, which was started as a knee-jerk reaction during the COVID-19 pandemic, when the Ghanaian public had begun to appreciate the significant investments that the previous NDC administration had made in healthcare facilities, and began to lament the many hospital projects that had stalled under the previous administration, a promise was made to build 111 hospitals. Mr. Speaker, I'm sad to note that there is no dedicated funding source for such a gargantuan project. 92.7. There is no dedicated funding source for this gargantuan project. Mr. Speaker, for the record, as I speak, not a single Agenda 111 hospital is operational. In any part of Ghana, I challenge you, not one is operational. Mr. Speaker, and it is worth disclosing that $400 million has already been disbursed under the Agenda 111 project.
As President John Dramani Mahama, that there's more of this and some analysis on this on Ghana Tonight at 10 p.m. on TV3, which is also going to be live on 3FM 92.7. I want to say thank you so much for staying with us here on Hot Edition. My name is Alfred Ocansey. On behalf of the rest of the team, we appreciate your company. Join us same time tomorrow. Have a great evening. The drive continues.
Completing a number of hospitals and making them operate.